What's going on, guys? Jesse here from Sledaddicz. So I'm in Mike's garage, and today we're going to be giving you guys a full season review on my 2024 MXZ X-RS 137-850, fully loaded with smart shocks and the 10.25-inch gauge. This is actually going to be the final video for the Sledaddicz 2023-2024 season. So let's get into it. So as you guys know, we really love our 850 Renegades. Obviously this year Skidoo has changed the naming scheme, so 850 and 600 two-stroke sleds are now called MXZ, whether it's a 129 or a 137. You might have noticed this season that my sled does say Renegade on it. That was just kind of a joke because we always associate our 137s with Renegade, but it is the MXZ that Skidoo came out with for this year. So this season I put on, I just rolled 3,400 kilometers on this sled, and I just wanted to give you guys like an in-depth review on what I thought after riding it all season. So for me, this was my first Gen 5. Last year I got some time to ride Mike's Gen 5, his 2023, but I didn't really spend a lot of time on it. So this is also my first year having smart shocks on a sled, so I just wanted to give you guys some impressions on that. So first off, the one thing I noticed with the smart shocks is just how well they make the sled handle when it comes from going from corner to corner and riding it in the trail hard and fast. The whole design of the smart shocks, what it does is it keeps that sled planted always. So it makes it that corner is really smooth and really precise. Pair that with the Bergstrom carbides, the triple point carbides, which we've been running for the past few years, and this sled was on rails. Every time Mike rode the sled earlier this season, he couldn't believe just how well it was performing. And that hasn't changed in all 3,500 kilometers I put on it. I will say when it comes to the smart shocks, with the three modes, Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus, I found myself in Sport mode 90% of the time. And a couple times if it was like really rough chop, I'd go into Sport Plus, but I was almost never in Comfort mode. In terms of the G5, I did notice off the bat, I know Skidoo tells us that the sled has less vibration than the G4, but you actually do notice it. So riding the sled, significantly less vibration in it. On top of that, I've been running the Fast Track studs this year, the Top Gun studs. Really impressed with them, had great traction. I'm just running a 1.25 ripsaw track that I swapped onto it with the Fast Track studs. And yeah, those performed really well. Super impressed with that. On top of that, we've been running the Ultimax belts, the XS 821 specifically on this sled. Always never had an issue with them. They have great life. The sled only has 3,500 kilometers on it, so I can't really comment on the durability of the belt, but it's been on since day one and it's always been working great. If you guys are looking for belts for your sled, we do offer some Ultimax belts on our website, mainly the XS 821, as well as an Ultimax belt for the Polaris Matrix sleds. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I really do like the smart shocks and they do handle really well on the trail. The one thing I can say coming from my 22, my 21, my 18 XRSs, which were all very similar handling sleds, all with the regular KYB clicker shocks. Smart shocks makes the sled handle really well corner to corner because the whole design of it is it keeps every part of that sled planted. Whether you're in a turn or you're coming over a lip, it tries to keep the front end down and it tries to keep the sled really planted. But at the same time, I would argue that it makes the sled a little less playful. Like I'm the type of guy that sometimes when I hit the throttle, I want to be able to lift the skis, and smart shocks prevents that. For the guys that like super playful sleds and want to be able to lift the skis and stuff like that, you're probably better off going with just the KYB clicker shocks and not smart shocks. But if you're a guy that just wants to stay planted, put on hard trail miles, then smart shocks is definitely the answer for you. The other thing I wanted to mention, so as you guys know, we've been selling knee pads this year. So I've been running the Sledaddicz knee pads on my sled all season. We'll show you guys some B-roll of them, but they're still in perfect shape after 3,500 kilometers. Same like you saw Mike's sled from last year, 7,000 kilometers. His sled this year, each with at least 3,000 or 4,000 kilometers. All the knee pads are holding on really well. And so, yeah, they really help with just comfort when you're riding. A lot of the time when you're really riding hard in the trail, I find I'm up on the tank and they eliminate all that vibration that you would normally get by your knees rubbing on the panels. And on top of that, they add a little bit of grip. So in the corner, when you're really trying to grip onto the sled, they do help a lot. On top of that, we've also been running our shim kits this year to just protect our tunnels from scratching. Those have worked really well as well. Lastly, the other thing I wanted to mention, as you guys have known, I've been running the roller ski wheels by Quali Pieces for the past 5 seasons now. They've never let me down, especially on my trip last week in Long Lac. By the time you're watching this video, that ride video will be out. Obviously, late season, there's a lot of road running, in and out of gas stations, crossing roads. And these just make it so easy to maneuver the sled around, and it's something I would never not have on my sled. So if you guys are looking for something to help you, it even helps get the sleds in and out of the trailer super easily because it's just on wheels, so you have much less resistance, less likely to spin a track. Definitely something you can consider. So before we end off this video, I just wanted to talk about some issues I had this year and some things that I think can be improved on. So one issue that I had, which Mike had an issue with his 2023 sled last year, is with the starter. So my understanding is that it's the spindex that basically gets dirty and doesn't slide back in. So when you go to start the sled, you get like a clicking noise and the starter doesn't engage. So most of the time you can basically tip the sled on its side and then start it. I had one time this year where that didn't work, and I basically had to take the little wrench that Skidoo gives you and tap on the side of the primary to get the starter to engage, and then it started up. So that is something that we've noticed. I don't know why that's happening, but it is happening. On top of that, smart shocks. So they ran great for me all season until the last 2 days of my season. So when I was in Long Lac, I was riding, and all of a sudden I noticed that my rear end felt super soft. So I got off the sled, and whether it was in Sport Plus mode, Sport mode, or Comfort mode, I could move the suspension up and down super easily. So I thought right away I had a blown shock. But that was the sled I had. There was no bumps on the trail, so I was able to continue to ride it. And then a day later, the same thing happened with the front end of the sled where it got super soft. So my prediction is that it's likely something with the computer. We don't know for sure, but it will be covered by warranty. We don't have any doubt about that. So this sled's going into the dealership once we get it all stripped down and ready to sell, just to get that all fixed up and sorted for the buyer. So that is something I noticed a little bit disappointing, because the last thing you want to go wrong when you're riding is your suspension to fail. As I mentioned, I was able to continue to ride the sled, but if you're in an area where the trails are super beat and that happens to you, you might not necessarily be able to ride it. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, lastly, in terms of BRP Go, so I really tried this season. I tried in Valin. I got it to work a little bit with my phone. Then I got a brand new phone a couple weeks ago, and Mike got a new phone this year and his has been working well. Mine still isn't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the plug-in on the gauge. It can't be the phone because it's a brand new phone. I've tried multiple different cords, but basically I'll plug in my phone to the gauge. Sometimes BRP Go will pop up and then it will crash and say like disconnected. So it's frustrating because BRP Go itself is a great app. I've used it on my phone. I've planned rides on it. It's like my go-to app for planning rides. But when it comes to the connection with the sled, I had some issues, and that's why, as you guys know, we've been running Garmin GPSs for the past several years, just because they always work and they never cause any issue. I know lots of people that are using BRP Go and don't have problems, but we did have issues, so that's why I wanted to mention it to you guys, just so you're aware of it. And we still don't know what's causing it, but it definitely is something. So all in all, like those issues, very minor issues. Every sled can have certain issues and minor things, but overall, I love this sled. Every time I rode it, I had a big smile on my face. When I saw bumps, I got excited and I hit the throttle and just powered through it. R-Motion suspension paired with the R-Motion X rear suspension paired with the Pilot X front, or the Pilot X skis and the Raz X front suspension just handles awesome. I can't wait to see what they do next year with the new suspension setup geometry they have for the front end. Who knows? Maybe we might be getting one of those sleds. I can't promise anything. But we do have some sleds on order for next year. We got lots coming for next season, so definitely stay tuned. I appreciate you guys tuning in for our final video of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed all the content we had this year. Enjoy your summer, and we will see you in the fall. Thanks for watching, guys.